What's going on? It's your boy H Money, Mr. DAZN. We in the building. Let's get it. Devin Haney compared to Floyd Mayweather and Andre Ward. Devin Haney, the youngest champion in boxing, is compared to two fighters, Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Andre Ward. And I'm going to tell you why. Floyd Mayweather Jr., one of the greatest fighters in the history of boxing, of course, the TBE, 50-0. Floyd Mayweather has been a mentor for Devin Haney ever since Devin Haney was 8 years old. Devin Haney, he's been training with the Mayweathers ever since he was 8 years old. Devin Haney, he trained with Floyd Mayweather. He has trained with Floyd Mayweather Sr. Floyd Mayweather Sr., he's on record saying Devin Haney is the next Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather Sr., he's on record saying Devin Haney is just like my son, Floyd Mayweather Jr. Floyd Mayweather Sr., he said it himself that Devin Haney is a carbon copy of my son, Floyd Mayweather Jr. And that says it all right there. Devin Haney, he trained with Roger Mayweather. Rest in peace. Rest in peace to Roger Mayweather. Devin Haney, he trained with all of the Mayweathers ever since he was 8 years old. Devin Haney, he learned firsthand from Floyd Mayweather. Devin Haney is the protege of Floyd Mayweather. Similar boxing skills, the shoulder roll defense, the speed, the athleticism that Devin Haney got, very similar to Floyd Mayweather. And also, Devin Haney is compared to Andre Ward. Andre Ward, undefeated champion, just like Floyd Mayweather. Andre Ward, an Olympic gold medalist. Andre Ward, who hasn't lost a fight ever since he was 11 years old. Andre Ward, he didn't lose a fight ever since he was 11 years old. He retired undefeated, an Olympic gold medalist, two-division world champion, two-time unified champion, Andre Ward, who won the Super 6 middleweight tournament, the Super middleweight tournament, the Super 6. Andre Ward, he beat Mikhail Kessler. Andre Ward, he beat Carl Froch, Arthur Abraham, so many fighters, Alan Green, just to name a few. Sakio Bika, another champion. Andre Ward, considered one of the greatest super middleweights of all time. Devin Haney is compared to Andre Ward. And let me tell you why. Devin Haney, his dedication to the sport of boxing, his discipline, his work ethic. Devin Haney is a hard worker, just like Andre Ward. Andre Ward, one of the hardest workers in the history of boxing. Devin Haney, his work ethic is similar to Andre Ward. He's always in the gym. He's always training. Devin Haney, as an inside fighter, one of the best in boxing. He learned it. Devin Haney, he trained with Andre Ward. He trained with him. Devin Haney, he trained with Virgil Hunter. Devin Haney from Oakland, California, just like Andre Ward. Devin Haney, he's carrying the torch. Andre Ward passed the torch to Devin Haney, and he's representing Oakland, California. Bill Haney, his mentor is Virgil Hunter. Those that don't know, when Bill Haney, when he was when he was a teenager, when Bill Haney was a kid, he got incarcerated. Bill Haney was locked up, and Virgil Hunter, he was the probation officer. He was the probation officer at the jail that Bill Haney was locked up at. And Virgil Hunter, he's always been a mentor for Bill Haney. Devin Haney, he trained with Andre Ward. There's videos out there where Devin Haney, he talks about how he learned from Andre Ward inside fighting. He learned how to fight on the inside from Andre Ward. Andre Ward, one of the best inside fighters in the history of boxing. Andre Ward was a great inside fighter. And Devin Haney, he learned how to fight on the inside from Andre Ward. You know what I mean? Very similar. And Devin Haney is getting better and better. Devin Haney, his next fight hopefully will be in Oakland, California, and he's ready to bring all the people out, man. He's ready to bring all the stars out from Oakland, California. I'm talking about, legends like Marshawn Lynch, legends like Damian Lillard from Oakland, California. Devin Haney ready to put on a show, man. But like I said, Devin Haney, he favors Andre Ward. Devin Haney, after 26 fights, Devin Haney, his record right now, 26 wins, 15 knockouts. Devin Haney, his record after 26 fights, 26 wins, 15 knockouts at only 22 years old. Andre Ward, after 26 fights, his record was 26 wins, 14 knockouts. Look how similar the records are. Devin Haney, after 26 fights, his record, 26 wins, 15 knockouts. Andre Ward, after 26 fights, his record, 26 wins, 14 knockouts. Almost identical records. And like I said, Andre Ward was a hard worker. So was Floyd Mayweather Jr. Andre Ward, he retired undefeated, and so did Floyd Mayweather Jr. And Devin Haney is following the footsteps of these two great fighters, man.